So some of you may be curious if vaccinations are required in the United States Army, and for the most part, yes, but there is a little bit of explanation that needs to go along with that. So if you're willing to hang out and let me explain that to you, then I'll do just that. So fall in on me. What's up, my friends? Welcome to a brand new video. Let's talk about vaccines in the Army, because some of you may be curious as to if there's going to be certain vaccines that are required in the Army. And yes, so we're going to talk a little bit about that, especially like on the topic of currently, as of recording this video, COVID being the big thing and a COVID vaccination probably around the corner or whatever. So you're probably kind of curious about some of that as well. Along those lines, you might be curious, hey, when this COVID vaccination comes out, is that going to be required for soldiers to have to take that? Well, stick around to the end of the video to find out more information about that. I'm just kidding. I'm actually just going to tell you right now. I won't make you wait. So as of right now, no, that is not a requirement. But that's as of right now. Is what I'm seeing is that they are saying that because the vaccinations are still fairly new, and until they go through the full process of being FDA regulated or FDA approval, then they are not going to require them for now. That process can take a year, 2 years, whatever the case might be, but probably not until it is FDA approved. Then it's most likely going to become one of those vaccinations that it will be required for soldiers to have to get, however often that it becomes, if it's a yearly thing like the flu shot or whatever it is. But currently, it's not required. So when it does come out, it will not be required for soldiers to have to take that vaccination until it receives that FDA probably approval. They haven't specifically said that yes, it's going to be required then, but I'm assuming that probably means that they're going to wait for it to become FDA approved, and then they're probably going to make it required. So now that that main one is kind of out of the way, let's talk about a lot of your other ones, your other vaccinations that you're maybe thinking about, or maybe, wanting to know if they're going to be required or not. For the most part, a lot of your basic ones are required. Now, there are stipulations with that. So for example, if you have some kind of allergies, you're allergic to something that is contained in that vaccine, then of course, you're not going to be required to take it. What is it? I think it's like eggs or something like that. Like if you have some kind of allergy to eggs, then those people usually end up being exempt from taking the flu shot, because the flu shot is a required one. That one is one where you are required to take it. But if there's something about the flu shot that you're allergic to, and it's been documented by a doctor, not just you taking your, you saying that I'm allergic to it and they're taking your word for it. No, it has to be like actually documented by a doctor. So if they have something like you usually have a bracelet, or it's on your dog tags, or it's in your records or whatever, saying that you are allergic to this and that is contained in the vaccine, then yeah, you don't have to take that vaccine. With the flu shot, it's usually like an annual thing. Usually is how it'll work at the unit is they have like a roster of everybody in that company or whatever, and then they have like a set day and a set time that the platoon has to go down to the aid station, which is where all the medics are at. And you have to go down there and you have to get a flu shot. So that may be something like in the morning or in the afternoon or wherever the case might be. You head down there, you get the shot. It started off, I remember originally it was the shot, and then they moved for a while to like these nasal ones. They got like sprayed up your nose and then like dripped down the back of your throat, and it was horrible. And then they went back to the shot because I guess the shot was more effective or whatever the case was. And I'm pretty sure I think the shot is now what they still use anyways. But you would go to the aid station and they would give you that vaccine. They would keep track of who got that vaccination, who got the flu shot, and who didn't yet. So if there were soldiers that maybe were on mission, maybe they're on vacation or whatever, then they would know, who didn't get it, and then they would contact their leadership and say, hey, so-and-so hasn't got it yet, and then try to make some kind of arrangements for them to get that. So they have some kind of way to track who's gotten the flu shot and who hasn't got it, who still needs to get it, all that stuff. So that one is definitely a required one. And there's also several other ones. There's things like I remember getting like a yellow fever shot. I had to get like a tetanus shot. I've had to get all sorts of crazy shots. Another key thing is like when you go to like deployments or even like training deployments, like to the National Training Center, usually there's like a place you have to go to make sure that you get the shots that you're supposed to be getting. So for those kind of deployments, when you're going to the National Training Center, you go to what is called SRP. There's what Soldier Readiness Program, I think it is, or something like that. But you go to this place, you'll locate it on post somewheres where it has like a bunch of stations. You go through it to make sure you're healthy, make sure that you're up to date on shots, on dental and everything. And usually that is when they'll do like updates on shots. So if there is a shot that you have not gotten that you're supposed to get, then they will give it to you there at SRP. Some I remember you get like the TB, which is what, tuberculosis or whatever, where they give you the shot in the arm and it gives you a little lump, and then that lump is supposed to, go away within like a day or two. And if it doesn't, then they have to do some additional tests on you because you might have TB or something like that. That's one I remember. But you'd also get things like, was it like tetanus was like every 10 years or something like that. So if you're not in the Army for that long, then you may have to worry about it. Maybe you'll have to get it once and then that's it. And there's a lot of other shots, especially like one of the big ones I remember was for deploying to Iraq, we had to get smallpox. And if you ever have to get that one, I think that's the worst shot that I ever had to get was a smallpox shot. Not because it hurts, it's just such a pain in the ass to take care of. You get this shot in your arm and it leaves a scar for like years. I probably still have the scar on my arm somewhere, but it's probably hidden in the tattoos. But you have to go and take care of it like crazy. It's gonna basically be an open wound, so you have to keep a bandage over it. When you shower, you have to be very careful that water doesn't run over because it can cause it to spread to the rest of your arm and all sorts of craziness. So that one's just super pain in the ass to take care of. It itches and you can't scratch it because if you scratch it, you could possibly spread it also. So that one is a big pain in the ass. So if you ever have to get a smallpox one, that one is a pain. You may be kind of thinking about like anthrax too, right? Anthrax was at one point in time a required one. You had to get anthrax, and I ended up having to get anthrax shots because of the time it was required. Later, they kind of moved to making it not required. I don't know if it's still a not required one or if they've gone back to requiring it or not. But then like the tricky thing was that they had it to where those of us that did already get the anthrax shots, we had to continue with the boosters. So it was still required for us to get the boosters, but if someone never started the anthrax cycle of shots, then they weren't required to get the anthrax in the first place. But like on that one, I'm not sure if they've gone back to requiring anthrax or not, or if that one's still back the way it was, of that one kind of being like more voluntary. If you wanted to, then you could. Even like if you do get like the anthrax shots and you do like something like donate blood and you go to like those places where they pay you for your blood, I think your blood's worth a little bit more if you have a record of, you know, having these anthrax shots and vaccines or whatever. Probably someone's thinking about it right now and they're like, well, what about someone that's like a anti-vaxxer or something like that? Well, you probably don't want to join the military or the Army at least. I don't know if other branches are a little bit more lenient with it or whatever the case is, but in the Army, if you're an anti-vaxxer or whatever, I don't believe you're going to be able to really kind of do that. I don't know if they can do different ways around it. I've never seen anything, but for the most part, you're going to be required to do this, right? You can't just go in like, I'm just against vaccines. Well, no, they're going to be like, we got to protect our investment, right? You're like government property basically when you join the Army. So you're their property and they want you to have these vaccines to take care of you and everything and make sure they are protecting their investment. So you're probably gonna be required to take these unless you have some kind of allergic reasons that you can't take this vaccine. So that kind of answers the question, hopefully, of if vaccines are required. And yes, for the most part they are, unless you have some kind of allergic reactions to it or they tell you that this one's a voluntary type of vaccine. So now that you know that vaccines for the most part are required in the United States Army, maybe you're curious about, hey, what kind of things am I not allowed to do in the United States Army uniform? Well, I got an older video right here that you might want to check out that has some good relevant information. Check it out if you haven't seen that already, or just check out my latest upload down there if you happen to miss that. Links in the description for social media, Discord, all that kind of fun stuff. I'm ThatChrisChaos. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you next time. See ya.